Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Speak the Truth in Love ministry. All the single ladies, all the single ladies. This is a single ladies talk with Miss Veronica, Miriam Benedictio. And I want to give the title to this video, Single Ladies, Desperacy is a Demon. You guys, I want to share some of these things. Just like I say, most of the things I share are out of life experience. And as I share them, just like I tell people, I may hurt people, and I'm not unapologetic about my hurting people as long as I'm using biblical truths, But at times there are things that are ongoing and they are leading to a lot of people being wounded, living in regret, in frustration, because some of us have not known certain truths, So today, welcome to the Speak the Truth in Love ministry this Wednesday, June 24th, 2006, and I want to give a title to my message, Single Ladies, Desperacy is a Demon. Desperacy, oba mu Luganda nkiyite ki, oba obutagumiikiriza, oba okuggwaamu essuubi, I don't know. But let me speak to someone out there. One, we have to know. And why I use the single ladies perspective, ndi mukyala. Kati oluusi ebyabaami sibimanyi nnyo, kyova olaba ebintu ebisinga mbikyaringa mu perspective ya mukyala, because ndi mukyala ekinkolera kyengabana. Sobola gabana ku kintu kye simanyiiko, Because at times people tell me, why do you only talk about ladies? I'm not a man. So there are certain things I will not know about men. Just like I say, I share things out of my life experience. But the things I know about men, I read about, I also share. So let me begin. Single ladies, we have to know. Men also know we are desperate, and they take advantage of that. As long as a man knows you are desperate, all you want is to settle, is to have children. You are looking at biological clocks, and it is why most men take advantage of us, because of the demon of desperacy, And it is why I'm speaking to a young lady out there. Whenever you get desperate, it only leads to making decisions like you are settling because of fear of being alone. You are settling because of pressure, societal pressure. You will settle because everyone is getting married. You will settle because of pressure from family, from society, from the workplace. And at times, ladies make decisions out of pressure, which lead to eternal pain and regret. There is something I speak to myself, or I speak to single ladies out there. You can never regret being patient, but whenever you are not patient, you will regret, Tosobola kwejjusa kubeera mugumiikiriza, naye oluusi obutagumiikiriza kuleeta okwejjusa, and it is the truth. These are the truths I'm sharing with people out there, We can never regret being patient, but we shall always regret because of being impatient. Because at times we have allowed the societal pressure, words from people, how you are beautiful but unlucky, how you are of age and you're not married, and you really seem a loser, But there is something I speak to myself and I speak to young ladies out there. Be very mindful of societal pressure, because it leads to so many people being wounded. It leads to so many people becoming single mothers, and then the world begins laughing at you. Ensi netandika okusekerera, naye ng'eyagezaako okulaga nga oli luuza, oli awo tonnazaala, oli awo toyina mwami. And it is why I'm speaking to single ladies in this video. Desperacy is a demon. And what brings desperacy? At times we are mindful of biological clocks. I am this age. And it is the way the world wears us, Because when a lady reaches a certain age and she's not married, she has no children, that pressure hits, And it is why we have to know. You have to be very mindful, of the societal pressure in regard to marriage and the generation. Then secondly, I want to speak to someone. You have to know, not every delay, not every delay is evil or a curse or rejection, because there are certain delays that are very intentional by the heavens for your protection. There are certain delays that are very intentional by the heavens for God to silence our haters, God to silence the enemy. But at times, most of us get frustrated in the delay. We allow the delays frustrate us because of the ongoing pressure. And it is why it takes me to my first point. You can never regret for being what? Patient. But you will regret because you made a choice out of impatience. You are seeing your friends are getting married, they are getting engaged, you are attending weddings, and that pressure hits so far that you think you also have to make a decision, not out of something you are really peaceful about, but because you are looking at what is happening in other people's lives. And it is what I'm speaking to someone. Most of us hardly know this. When we get to trust God's divine plan, no, let me encourage someone. Let me encourage a single lady. Trust God's divine plan. That every disappointment, that every rejection, that every closed door, every closed opportunity is a divine blessing, is divine protection. At times, because some of us lack these revelations, and it is why you see we get so desperate. You are in a relationship where you are compromising your values. You are keeping a relationship because you are scared about biological clocks. If they go, will I ever get someone? And you hardly know. There is something I have learned that is so true. When the time is not right, you cannot force it. And when the time is right, you cannot stop it. But most of us, we are into forcing things, and that is why we are hurt, we are wounded, we are used. We are frustrated because most of us do not want to wait on the Lord. No, there is something I speak to myself because I also used to go through it. You hear about God's timing. Is it delay is not denial. But when you get a revelation about God's timing, you will know it is not your timing. God's timing is not our timing. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11 that God makes all things beautiful in his timing. Inti Katonda ebintu byonna bifuulo ebirungi mu budde bwe. Naye abasinga, we want our timing. And that is why we end up being wounded. We end up living in regret, in frustration, because we want things our way. No, the Bible says in Psalm 37 verse 4, delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. And it's the reason we have to ask God very much to align our desires to his desires, to align our timing to his timing, to align our will to his divine will. To align our plan to his plan. Because God's ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. When you read Isaiah 55 verse 8, it says God's ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. You may want it your way, but God may do it in another way for his glory. But as sons of men, we allow frustration, we allow pressure to make us make decisions that lead us into eternal regret. No, there is something I ask ladies out there who are doing things the right way, who are not walking in perfection, but you are doing things the right way. You are faithful to God. You have a calling and you are faithful to God. What about, if God chose that is your calling, being single is going to be a calling. There are things we take for granted, but at times we hardly know God's ways are not our ways. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 to 6, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, accept him, acknowledge him, and he will try direct your path. Bible gamba nti weesige Katonda n'omutima gwo gwonna, teweesigama ku magezi go. Abantu abasinga oluusi twesigamye ku magezi gaffe. And it is why you see we end up being frustrated or ruined because we are putting our understanding in what we know. It is what I'm telling someone. When the time is not right, you cannot force it. And when it is right, no one can stop it. And that is why I'm encouraging someone. Do not allow societal pressure. Do not allow comparisons. Because all our journeys are unique and different for God's glory and purpose. And the reason you have to know, someone's journey is not your journey. And there's something even I've gotten out of a revelation. Like a right journey for someone may not be the right journey for the other. Because we all have different purposes and God has plans for all of us. The right journey for Veronica may not be the right journey for Carol. The right journey for Carol may not be the right journey for Veronica, because God created all of us different and unique for His glory and purpose. And it is the reason we do not have to walk in comparisons, competition, allowing societal pressure, because all our journeys are different for God's glory. One's journey is like the right journey for someone is not the right journey for the other. And the reason we should not be judgmental, we should not think we know it all, we are perfect, because all our journeys are different for God's glory and purposes. And it is what I'm speaking to someone. When we get to know that there is lots of divine protection behind closed doors, behind rejections, there's lots of behind closed opportunities, closed relationships, I'm telling you, you will learn to rest. Because in most cases, the plan of God is aborted in our lives. The plan of God is thwarted in our lives because we are walking in impatience, we are walking in disbelief, we are walking in doubt, and we want to do things our way. And that is why at times when God speaks to us and we are not patient, He gives us to the will of our enemies, because He does not force His choice on us. He never forces His choices on us. No, at times we have allowed the world make it seem like you do not have children, you are not married, you have no man, you are single. It is a curse. And it's why I tell people, being single is not a curse. It is a season with its own calling. A season of self-awareness, a season of preparation, a season of being molded in character. A season of self-discovery, knowing who you are, knowing your identity. Knowing that your happiness does not come from a man. Knowing that your happiness doesn't come from having children. No omanyi tutubiyitamu nnyo. Nedda zaala yakanako kakujjeko stress. I'm telling you. Omwana tajjaako stress. Nga it's not yet God's timing. Because oyinza omuzaala nga yakuleetera stress. Oyinza omuzaala nga you are a single mother. Even you have all the money. But you are mentally disturbed because this child has no father figure in their life. No, there are things I speak to myself, Veronica. When newozaala omwana tata nafa, it is okay, because the Bible says God is the father to the fatherless. Because there are people who have become single mothers, but they lost the father's children. Naye ndeeta omwana ku nsi nga tata we gy'ali naye nga nze amulabirira n'amuddamu ki. So there are certain things, when we know certain truths, they set us free. Ensajja kulaga zaalayo akaana kakujjeko stress. I'm telling you, you may give birth to that child nga they are your real stress factor, because you think wamuzaala kujjako stress. No, I'm telling you, I've been with children. A baby can be with their mother and you see the mother is so, they're getting irritable, they're getting frustrated. Amazeeko emirembe, because for them they are aware to depend on their mothers, to depend on their parents for their happiness. And at times the mother is also going through a lot. They want to sleep, they want to rest. The baby, mommy this. So there are things when we get to know certain truths. Zaala yakana kwa kujeko stress. I'm telling you, omwana tajjako stress, because you can give birth to them and you cannot even look after them, and that only will be stress. Bringing your child in the world and you cannot provide for them because you just wanted to give birth. It is something that will stress you for you. No, I'm telling you, I have friends. You have people. No, they have very expensive jobs. They have all the money. Nayo mwana nga yatandise mubuuza, where is my daddy? All over, they are so disturbed. Their problem is not money, but God knew a child needs a father figure in the home. And it is why I'm speaking to single ladies out there. Whenever you allow desperacy take root, you will live in regret. You will live in frustration. You will live in being wounded. No, I'm telling you, men are very aware how we are desperate. They know all you want is to have children. All you want is to settle. And it is why you have to be very, very mindful in the season, in the seasons we are in. Because there are things at times that are wounding the entire generation. But it's because we have not known certain truths. The Bible says in Luke 18:27, the impossible becomes possible when God is in it. Now let me speak to a person out there who is in this season of waiting on the Lord. Nothing is impossible with God. No, the Bible says in Matthew 19:26, with God all things are possible. It says the same thing in Luke 1:37. Is anything impossible with God? And it's the Bible that says in Jeremiah 32:27, behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? Nze katonda w'ababa waliwo ekinnema. Olunyiriri olwo baluddamu Jeremiah 32, I think 17. Ne babuuza, is anything too hard for God? Olunyiriri olwo lulimu mu Genesis 18:14. Katonda we yalabikira Sarah n'amubuuza, is anything too hard for God? Genesis 18:14. Kati there are certain truths when we get to know nothing is too hard for God. Because as ladies who are single, we think I'm only going to be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I get children. And that is wrong. Because happiness is not in marriage. Happiness is not in children. Because every season has something attached to it. And it is why when you think you'll only be happy when you get married, you'll be very disappointed and wounded. Because happiness is not found in a fellow human being. Happiness is found within yourself and then your creator. It is why I'm speaking to single ladies out there. In this season, work on, let there be self-discovery. Know who you are. Work on your insecurities. Know who you are. Work on your identity issues. At times, the reason why people are so disturbed in marriages is because they went in marriage without knowing who they are. You think you'll only be happy when you have a man. I'll only be happy when I have a boyfriend, when I have a girlfriend, which is wrong. Because we are just human. We all have a selfish nature God put in us. And when you think you are going to depend on another human being to give you happiness, you will be so wounded. It is why, as I finish this video, let me speak to someone. Let me encourage someone. Be rooted in God's plan that even rejection feels like protection. Let us learn certain truths. Do not just pray for a man rich rich with a rich bank account, but pray for a man rich in character. Because character, a man rich in character will take you places. He can build a home, he can build a future. But a man rich in a wallet, he may be funding you, but he's destroying you emotionally. And it is why, as I finish this video, let me speak to a single. Desperacy is a demon. Whenever you allow desperacy, you're only opening doors to being wounded, to being frustrated, because you have known certain truths that happiness is not in a man, happiness is not in marriage, but it's found in yourself, and then your creator. Thank you very much for listening to me, and do not allow desperacy take forth. God bless you. Veronica, peace, blessing.